In The Price of Oranges, the epitome of a humanist science fiction story, time travel isn't through hundreds or thousands of years, begins and ends in the 20th century. Yet it's easy to understand the poor traveler's bewilderment at the events that have happened in that time that is skipped during his travels, events that are yet to come in his own time, which may be the most fearful idea of all. Anyway, this is The Price of Oranges by Nancy Kress, who's a good writer. I really like her. Okay. I'm worried about my granddaughter, Harry Kramer said, passing half his sandwich to Manny Feldman. Manny took it eagerly. The sandwich was huge, thick slices of beef and horseradish between fresh slices of crusty bread. Pigeons watched the park bench hopefully. Jackie, the granddaughter who writes books, Manny said. Harry watched to see that Manny ate. You couldn't trust Manny to eat enough. He stayed too skinny, at least in Harry's opinion. Manny, Jackie, the world. Harry sometimes thought had all grown too skinny when he somehow hadn't been looking. Skimpy, stretch feeling. Harry nodded to see horseradish spurt in a satisfying stream down Manny's scraggly beard. Jackie, yes, Harry said. So what's wrong with her? She's sick? Manny eyed Harry's strudel cherry with real yeast bread. Harry passed it to him. Harry, the whole thing. I couldn't. Take it, I don't want it. You should eat. No, she's not sick. She's miserable. When Manny, his mouth full of strudel, didn't answer, Harry put a hand on Manny's arm. Miserable! Manny swallowed hastily. How do you know? You saw her this week? No, next Tuesday. She's bringing me a book by a friend of hers. I know from this. He drew a magazine from an inner pocket of his coat. The coat was thick tweed, almost new, with wooden buttons. On the cover of the glossy magazine, a woman smiled contemptuously, a woman with hollow, starved-looking cheeks who obviously didn't get enough to eat either. That's not a book, Manny pointed out. So she writes stories, too. Listen to this. Just listen. I stood in my backyard, surrounded by the false, bright, toxin-fed green, and realized that the earth was dead. What else could it be, since we humans swarmed upon it like maggots on carrion, growing our hectic, gleaming molds, leaving our slime trails across the senseless surface? Does that sound like a happy woman? Hoo boy, Manny said. It's all like that. Don't read my things, Popsy, she says. You're not in the audience for my things. Then she smiles without ever showing her teeth. Harry flung both arms wide. Who else should be in the audience but her own grandfather? Manny swallowed the last of his strudel. Pigeons fluttered angrily. She never shows her teeth when she smiles? Never? Never. Hoo boy, Manny said. Do you want all of that orange? No, I brought it for you to take home. But did you finish that whole half a sandwich already? I thought I'd take it home, Manny said humbly. He showed Harry the tip of the sandwich, wrapped in the thick brown butcher paper protruding from the pocket of his old coat. Harry nodded approvingly. Good, good. Take the orange, too. I brought it for you. Manny took the orange. 3 teenagers carrying huge, shrieking radios sauntered past. Manny started to put his hands over his ears, received a look of dangerous contempt from the teenager with green hair, put his hands on his lap. The kid tossed an empty beer bottle onto the pavement before their feet. It shattered. Harry scowled fiercely, but Manny stared straight ahead. When the noise passed, Manny said, Thank you for the orange, Harry. Fruit. It costs so much this time of year. Harry still scowled. Not in 1937. Don't start that again, Harry, Harry said. Why won't you ever believe me? Could I afford to bring all the food I got here at 1988 prices? Could I afford this coat? Have you seen buttons like this in 1988 on a new coat? Have you seen sandwiches wrapped in that kind of paper since we were young? Have you? Why won't you believe me? Manny slowly peeled his orange. The rind was pale and the orange had seeds. Harry, don't start. But why don't you just come to my room and see? Manny sectioned the orange. Your room. A cheap furnished room in a Social Security hotel. Why should I go? I know what will be there. What will be there is the same thing in my room. A bed, a chair, a table, a hot plate, some cans of food. Better I should meet you here in the park. Get at least a little fresh air. He looked at Harry meekly, the orange clutched in one hand. Don't misunderstand. It's not from a lack of friendship I say this. You're good to me. You're the best friend I have. You bring me things from a great deli. You talk to me. You share with me the family I don't have. It's enough, Harry. It's more than enough. I don't need to see where you live like I live. Harry gave it up. There were moods, times, when it was just impossible to budge Manny. He dug in, and in he stayed. Eat your orange. It's a good orange. So tell me more about Jackie. Jackie. Harry shook his head. Two kids on bikes tore along the path. One of them swerved towards Manny and snatched the orange from his hand. All right. Harry scowled after the child. It had been a girl. Manny just wiped the orange juice off his fingers onto the knee of his pants. Is everything she writes so depressing? Everything, Harry said. Listen to this one. He drew out another magazine, smaller, bound in rough paper with a stylized linen drawing of a woman's private parts on the cover. On the cover. Harry held the magazine with one palm spread wide over the drawing, which made it difficult to keep the pages open while he read. She looked at her mother in the only way possible, with contempt. Contempt for all the betrayals and compromises that had been her mother's life, for the sad, soft lines of defeat around her mother's mouth, for the bright, artificial dress too young for her wasted years, for even the leather handbag, Gucci, of course, filled with blood money for having sold her life to a man who had long since ceased to want it. "Hoo boy," Manny said. About a mother, she wrote this. About everybody, all the time. And where is Barbara? Reno again. Another divorce. How many had that been? After two, did anybody count? Harry didn't count. He imagined Barbara's life as a large roulette wheel like the ones on TV, little silver men bouncing in and out of red and black pockets. Why didn't she get dizzy? Manny said, I always thought there was a lot of love in her. A lot of that she's got. Not Barbara, Jackie. A lot of, I don't know, sweetness under this way she is. The way she is, Harry said, prickly, a cactus. But you're right, Manny. I know what you mean. She just needs someone to soften her up. Love her back, maybe. Although I love her. The two old men looked at each other. Manny said, Harry, I know. I'm only a grandfather. My love doesn't count. I'm just there, like air. You're wonderful, Popsy, she says. Still, no teeth when she smiles. But you know, Manny, you are right. Harry jumped up from the bench. You are. What she needs is a young man to love her. Manny looked alarmed. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. Harry, and her stories, too. Full of ugly murders, ugly places, unhappy endings. What she needs is something to show her that writing should be about sweetness, too. Manny was staring at him hard. Harry felt a rush of affection. That Manny should have the answer. Skinny, wonderful Manny. Manny said, Jackie said to me, I write about reality. That's what she said, Harry. So, there's no sweetness in reality? Put sweetness in her life, her writing will go sweet. She needs this Manny, a really nice fellow. Two men in jogging suits ran past. One of their Reeboks came down on a shattered beer bottle. Every freaking time, he screamed, bending over to inspect his shoe. Freaking park. Well, what do you expect? The other drawled, looking at Manny and Harry. Although you'd think that if we could clean up Lake Erie. Freaking derelicts, the other snarled. They jogged away. Of course, Harry said, it might not be easy to find the sort of guy to convince Jackie. Harry, I think you should maybe think, not here, Harry said suddenly. Not here. There, in 1937. Harry, yeah, Harry said, nodding several times. Excitement filled him like light, like electricity. What an idea. It was different then. Manny said nothing. When he stood up, the sleeve of his coat exposed the number tattooed on his wrist. He said, It was no paradise in 1937 either, Harry. Harry seized Manny's hand. I'm going to do it, Manny. Find someone for her there. Bring him here. Manny sighed. Tomorrow at the chess club, Harry. At 1 o'clock. It's Tuesday. I'll tell you then how I'm coming with this. Fine, Harry, fine. All my wishes go with you. You know that? Harry stood up too, still holding Manny's hand. Middle-aged man staggered to the bench and slumped onto it. The smell of whiskey rose from him in waves. He eyed Manny and Harry with scorn. Frickin' fags. Good night, Harry. Manny, if you'd only come. Money goes so much farther there. Tomorrow at 1, at the chess club. Harry watched his friend walk away. Manny's foot dragged a little. The knee must be bothering him again. Harry wished Manny would see a doctor. Maybe a doctor would know why Manny stayed so skinny. Harry walked back to his hotel, to the lobby. Old man slumped in upholstery, thin from wear, burned from cigarettes, shining in the seat from long sitting. Sitting and sitting, Harry thought. Life measured by the seat of the pants. Now it was getting dark. No one would go out from here until the next daylight. Harry shook his head. The elevator wasn't working again. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. Halfway there, he stopped, felt in his pocket, counted 5 quarters, 6 dimes, 2 nickels, and 8 pennies. He returned to the lobby. Could I have $2 bills for this change, please? Maybe old bills? The clerk looked at him suspiciously. Your rent paid up? Certainly, Harry said. The woman grudgingly gave him the money. Thank you. You look very lovely today, Mrs. Rudetsky. Mrs. Rudetsky snorted. In his room, Harry looked for his hat. He finally found it under his bed. How had it gotten under his bed? He dusted it off and put it on. It cost him $3.25. He opened the closet door, parting the clothes hanging from their metal pole. Like Moses parting the sea, he always thought, a Moses come again, and stepped to the back of the closet, remembering, with his body rather than his mind, the sharp little twist to the right just past the far gray sleeve of his good wool suit. He stepped out into the bare corner of a warehouse. Cobwebs brushed his hat. It stepped a little too far right. Harry crossed the empty concrete space to where the lumber stacks started, threaded his way through them. The lumber, too, was covered with cobwebs. Not much building going on. On his way to the warehouse door, Harry passed the night watchman coming on duty. Quiet all day, Harry? As a church, Rudy, Harry said. Rudy laughed. He laughed a lot. He was also indisposed to question very much. First time he had seen Harry coming out of the warehouse in a bemused daze, he must have assumed that Harry had been hired to work there. Peering at Rudy's round, vacant face, Harry realized that he must hold this job because he was someone's uncle, someone's cousin, someone's something. Harry had felt a small glow of approval. Families should take care of their own. He told Rudy that he had lost his key and asked him for another. Outside it was late afternoon. Harry began walking. Eventually there were people walking past him, beside him, across the street from him. Everybody wore hats. The women wore bits of velvet or wool with dotted veils across their noses and long, graceful dresses in small print. The men wore fedoras with suits as baggy as Harry's. When he reached the park, there were children. Girls in long black tights, hard shoes, boys in buttoned shirts. Everyone looked like it was Sunday morning. Push carts and shops lined the sidewalks. Harry bought a pair of socks, thick gray wool, for 89 cents. When the man took his dollar, Harry held his breath. Each first time made a little pip in his stomach. No one ever looked at the dates of old bills. He bought 2 oranges for 5 cents each. Then, thinking of Manny, bought a third. At a candy store, he bought G8 and his Battle Aces for 15 cents. At the collector's cozy, and the other time, they would gladly give him $30 for it. Finally, he bought a cherry Coke for a nickel and headed towards the park. Oh, excuse me, said a young man who bumped into Harry on the sidewalk. I'm so sorry. Harry looked at him hard, but no. Too young. Jackie was 28. Some children ran past, making for the movie theater. Spencer Tracy and Captains Courageous. Harry sat down on a green-painted wooden bench under a pair of magnificent Dutch elms. On the bench lay a news magazine. Harry glanced at it to see when in September this was, the 28th. The cover painted a young blonde Nazi soldier standing at stiff salute. Harry thought again of Manny, frowned, turned the magazine cover down. The next hour, people walked past. Harry studied them carefully. When it got too dark to see, he walked back to the warehouse, on the way buying an apple kuchen at a bakery with a curtain behind the counter looped back to reveal a man in his shirt sleeves eating a plate of stew at a table bathed in soft yellow lamplight. The kuchen cost 32 cents. At the warehouse, Harry let himself in with his key, slipped past Ruth, nodding over Paris nights, and walked to his cobwebby corner. He emerged from his third-floor closet into his bedroom. Beyond the window, sirens wailed and would not stop. So how's it going? Manny asked. He dripped crumbs on the cheese chessboard. Harry brushed them away. Manny had him down a night. It's going to take time to find somebody that's right, Harry said. I'd like to have someone by next Tuesday when I meet Jackie for dinner, but I don't know. It's not easy. There are requirements. He has to be young enough to be attractive, but old enough to understand Jackie. He has to be sweet-natured enough to do her some good, but strong enough not to panic at jumping over 52 years. Somebody educated, an educated man. He might be more curious than upset by my closet. Don't you think? Better watch your queen, Manny said, moving his rook. So how are you going to find him? Takes time, Harry said. I'm working on it. Manny shook his head. You have to get somebody here. You have to convince him he is here. You have to keep him from turning right around and running back in time through your shirts. I don't know, Harry. I don't know. I've been thinking. This thing is not simple. What if you did something wrong? Took somebody important out of 1937? I won't pick anybody important. What if you made a mistake and brought your own grandfather and something happened to him here? My grandfather was already dead in 1937. What if you brought me? I'm already here. You didn't live here in 1937. What if you brought you? I didn't live here either. What if you... Manny, Harry said, I'm not bringing anybody important. I'm not bringing somebody we know. I'm not bringing somebody for permanent. I'm just bringing a nice guy for Jackie to meet, go dancing, see a different kind of nature, different view of what's possible, and innocence. I'm sure there are fellows here that would do it, but I don't know any. I don't know how to bring any to her. From there, I know. Is this so complicated? Is this so unpredictable? Yes, Manny said. He had on his stubborn look again. How could somebody so skimpy look so stubborn? Harry sighed and moved his lone knight. I brought you some whole socks. Thank you. That night, it's not going to help you much. Lectures. That's what there was that there isn't here. Everybody went to lectures. No TV. Movies cost money. They went to free lectures. I remember, Manny said. I was a young man myself, Harry. This thing is not simple. Yes, it is, Harry said. 1937 was not simple. It will work, Manny. Check, Manny said. That evening, Harry went back. This time it was the afternoon of September 16. On newsstands, the New York Times announced that President Roosevelt and John L. Lewis had talked pleasantly at the White House. Cigarettes cost 13 cents a pack. Women wore cotton stockings and clunky high-heeled shoes. Schraff's best chocolates were 60 cents a pound. Small boys addressed Harry as Sir. He attended 6 lectures in 2 days. Madame Trefania lectured on theosophy to a hall full of badly dressed women with thin, pursed lips. A union organizer roused an audience to a pitch that made Harry leave after the first 30 minutes. A skinny, nervous missionary showed slides of religious outposts in China. An archaeologist back from a Mexican dig gave a dry, impatient talk about temples to an audience of 3 people. A New Deal Democrat spoke passionately about aiding the poor, but afterwards addressed all the women present as sister. Finally, just when Harry was starting to feel discouraged, he found it. A museum offered a series of lectures on science of today and tomorrow. Harry heard a slim young man with a reddish beard speak with idealistic passion about travels to the moon, the planets, the stars. It seemed to Harry that compared to stars, 1989 might seem reasonably close. The young man had warm hazel eyes and a sense of humor. When he spoke about life in a spaceship, he mentioned in passing that women would be freed from much domestic drudgery they now endured. Throughout the lecture, he smoked, lighting cigarettes with a masculine squinting of eye and cupping of hand. He said that imagination was the human quality that would most help people adjust to the future. His shoes were polished. Most of all, Harry thought he had a glow. A fine, golden Boy Scout glow that made Harry think of old covers of the Saturday Evening Post, which here cost 5 cents. After the lecture, Harry stayed in his chair in the front row, outwaiting even the girl with bright red lipstick who lingered around the lecturer, this Robert Gernshon. From time to time, Gernshon glanced over at Harry with a quizzical interest. Finally, the girl, red lips pouting, sashayed out of the hall. Hello, Harry said. I'm Harry Kramer. I enjoyed your talk. I have something to show you that you would be very interested in. The hazel eyes turned wary. Oh, no, no, Harry said. Something scientific. Hey, here, look at this. He handed Gershon a filtered vantage light. How long it is, Gershon said. What's this made of? The filter? It's made of a new filter material. Tastes milder and cuts down on the nicotine. Much better for you. Look at this. He gave Gershon a styrofoam cup from McDonald's. It's made of a new material, too. Very cheap, disposable. Gershon fingered the cup. Who are you? He said. A scientist. I'm interested in the science of tomorrow, too. Like you. I'd like to invite you to see my laboratory, which is in my home. In your home? Yes. In a small way, just dabbling, you know. Harry could feel himself getting rattled. Young hazel eyes stared at him so steadily. Jackie, he thought. Dead earths, maggots and carrion. Contempt for mothers. What would Gershon say? When would Gershon say anything? Thank you, Gershon finally said. When would be convenient? Now? Harry said. He tried to remember what time of day it was now. All he could picture were lecture halls. Gershon came. It was 9:30 in the evening of Friday, September 17. Harry walked Gershon through the streets, trying to talk animatedly, trying to distract. He said that he himself was very interested in travel to the stars. He said it had always been his dream to stand on another planet and take in great gulps of completely unpolluted air. He said his great heroes were those biologists who made that twisty model of DNA. He said science had been his life. Gershon walked more and more silently. Of course, like most scientists, I am mostly familiar with my own field. You know how it is. What is your field, Dr. Kramer? Gershon asked. Electricity, Harry said. Hit him on the back of the head with a solid brass candlestick from the pocket of his coat. The candlestick had cost him $3 at a pawn shop. They'd walked past the stores and push carts to a point where the locked business offices and warehouses began. There were no passers-by, no muggers, no street dealers, no guardian angels, no punk gangs, only him hitting an unarmed man with a candlestick. He was no better than the punks. What else could he do? What else could he do? No, nothing but hit him so softly that Gershon was struggling again almost before Harry got his hands and feet tied, well, before he got on the blindfold and gag. I'm sorry, he kept saying to Gershon. Gershon did not look as if the apology made any difference. Harry dragged him into the warehouse. Rudy was asleep over spicy stories. Breathing very hard, Harry pulled the young man, not more than 150 pounds, it was good Harry had looked for Slim, to the far corner, through the gate, and into his closet. Listen, he said urgently to Gershon after removing the gag. Listen, I can call the Medicare emergency hotline if your head feels broken. Are you feeling faint? Do you think you might go into shock? Gershon lay on Harry's rug, glaring at him, saying nothing. Listen, I know this is maybe a little startling to you. I'm not a pervert, not a cop, not anything but a grandfather with a problem. My granddaughter. I need your help to solve it, but I won't take much of your time. You're now somewhere beside where you gave your lecture. Pretty long ways away, but you don't have to stay here long, I promise. Just 2 weeks, tops, and I'll send you back. I promise, on my mother's grave. I'll make it worth your while, I promise. Untie me. Yes, of course, right away. Only you have to not attack me because I'm the only one who can get you back from here. He had a sudden inspiration. I'm like a foreign consul. You maybe traveled abroad? Gershon looked around the dingy room. Untie me. I will, in 2 minutes. 5 tops. Just want to explain a little first. Where am I? 1989. Gershon said nothing. Harry explained brokenly, talking as fast as he could, saying he could move from 1989 to September 1937 when he wanted to. They could take Gershon back, too, no problem. He said he made the trip often. It was perfectly safe. He pointed out how much farther a small Social Security check, no pension, could go at 1937 prices. He mentioned Manny's strudel. Only lightly did he touch on the problem of Jackie, thinking there would be a better time to share domestic difficulties. In his closet he didn't mention at all. It was hard to keep his eyes averted from the closet door. He did mention how bitter people could be in 1989, how lost, how weary from expecting so much that nothing was a delight, nothing a sweet surprise, just working up to a tirade on innocence when Gernshon said again, in a different tone, "Untie me." "Of course," Harry said quickly. "I don't expect you to believe me. Why should you think you're in 1989? Go, see for yourself. Look at that light. It's still early morning. Just be careful out there, is all." He untied Gernshon and stood with his eyes squeezed shut, waiting. When nothing hit him, Harry opened his eyes. Gernshon was at the door. "Wait," Harry cried. "You need more money." He dug into his pocket and pulled out a $20 bill, carefully saved for this and all the change he had. Gernshon examined the coins carefully, then looked up at Harry. He said nothing. He opened the door, and Harry, still trembling, sat down in his chair to wait. Gernshon came back 3 hours later, pale and sweating. "My God." "I know just what you mean," Harry said. "A zoo out there. Have a drink." Gernshon took the mixture Harry had ready in his toothbrush glass and gulped it down. He caught sight of the bottle, which Harry had left on the dresser. Seagram's V.O. with a cluttered tiny print label. He threw the glass across the room and covered his face with his hands. "I'm sorry," Harry said, "but then it cost only $3.37 1/5. Gernshon didn't move. "I'm really sorry," Harry said. He raised both hands, palms up, and dropped them helplessly. Would you maybe like an orange?" Gernshon recovered faster than Harry had dared hope. Within an hour, he was sitting in Harry's warm chair, asking questions about the space shuttle. Within 2 hours, taking notes. Within 3, becoming again the intelligent and captivating young man of the lecture hall. Harry, answering as much as he could, as patiently as he could, was impressed by the boy's resilience. Couldn't have been easy. What if Harry, suddenly had to skip 52 more years? What if he found himself in 2041? Harry shuddered. "Do you know that a movie now costs $6? Gernshon blinked. "We were talking about the moon landing." "Not anymore, we're not. I want to ask you some questions, Robert. Do you think the Earth is dead, with people slamming all over it like on carrion? Is this a thought that crosses your mind?" No. Harry nodded. Good. Do you look at your mother with contempt?" "Of course not, Harry." "No, it's my turn. Do you think a woman who marries a man, and maybe the marriage doesn't work out perfect, whose does, but they raise at least one healthy child, say a daughter, that woman's life has been a defeat and a failure?" "No, What would you think if you saw a drawing of a woman's private parts on the cover of a magazine?" Gernshon blushed. It looked as if the blush annoyed him, but also as if he couldn't help it. "Better and better," Harry said. "Now, think carefully on this next one. Take your time, no hurry. Does reality seem to you to have sweetness in it as well as ugliness? Take your time." Gernshon peered at him. Harry realized they had talked right through lunch. "But not all the time in the world, Robert." "Yes," Gernshon said. "I think reality has more sweetness than ugliness, and more strangeness than anything else. Very much more." He looked suddenly dazed. "I'm sorry, all this has happened so—" "Put your head between your knees," Harry suggested. "There. Better now? Good. There's someone I want you to meet." Manny sat in the park on their late afternoon bench. When he saw them coming, his face settled into long, sorrowful ridges. "Harry, where have you been for 2 days? I was worried. I went to your hotel." "Manny," Harry said, "this is Robert." "So I see," Manny said. He didn't hold out his hand. "Him," Harry said. "Harry. Oh, Harry." "How do you do, sir?" Gernshon said. He held out his hand. "I'm afraid I didn't get your full name." "I'm Robert Gernshon." Manny looked at him, at the outstretched hand, the baggy suit with the wide tie, the differential smile, the golden Baden-Powell glow. Manny's lip mouthed a silent word, "Sir?" "I have a lot to tell you," Harry said. "You can tell all of us then," Manny said. "Here comes Jackie now." Harry looked up. Across the park, a woman in jeans strode purposely toward them. "Manny, it's only Monday." "I called her to come," Manny said. "You've been gone from your room 2 days, Harry. Nobody at your hotel could say where—" "But Manny," Harry said, while Gernshon looked, frowning, from one to the other, and Jackie spotted them and waved. She'd lost more weight, Harry saw, Only 2 weeks, yet her cheeks had hollowed out and new tiny lines touched her eyes. Skinny lines. They filled him with sadness. Jackie wore a blue t-shirt that said, "Life is a bitch, then you die." She carried a magazine and a small can of mace disguised as hairspray. "Popsy, you're here. Manny said." "Manny was wrong," Harry said. "Jackie, sweetheart, it's good to see you, Jackie. I'd like you to meet somebody, darling. This is Robert, my friend Robert. Jackie Snyder." "Hi," Jackie said. She gave Harry a hug and then Manny one. Harry saw Gernshaw gazing at her very tight jeans. "Robert's a scientist," Harry said. It was the wrong thing to say. Harry knew the moment he said it that it was the wrong thing. Science, all science, was for some reason not completely clear to him a touchy subject with Jackie. She tossed her long hair back from her eyes. "Oh, yeah? Not chemical, I hope?" "I'm not actually a scientist," Gershon said winningly. "Just a dabbler. I popularize new scientific concepts write about them to make them intelligible." "Like what?" Jackie said. Gershon opened his mouth, closed it again. A boy suddenly flashed past on a skateboard holding a boombox. Metallica blasted the air. Overhead a jet droned. Gershon smiled weakly. "It's hard to explain." "I'm capable of understanding," Jackie said. "Women can understand science, you know." "Jackie, sweetheart," Harry said. "What have you got there? Is that your new book?" "No," Jackie said. "This is the one I said I'd bring you by my friend. It's brilliant. It's about a man whose business partner betrays him by selling out to organized crime and framing the man. In jail, he meets a guy who's founded his own religion, the House of Divine Despair. When they both get out, they start a new business, Suicide Incorporated. Helps people kill themselves for a fee. The whole thing is just a brilliant denunciation of contemporary America." Gershon made a small sound. "It's a comedy," Jackie said. "It sounds a little depressing," Gershon said. Jackie looked at him. Very distinctly, she said, "It's reality." Harry saw Gershon glance around the park. A man nodded on a bench, his hands slack on his knees. Newspapers and McDonald's wrappers stirred fitfully in the dirt. A trash container had been knocked over. Beside a scrawny tree enclosed shoulder-high by black wrought iron, a child watched them with old eyes. "I bought you something else too, Popsy," Jackie said. Harry hoped that Gershon noticed how much gentler her voice was when she spoke to her grandfather. "A scarf. See, it's llama wool. Very warm," Gershon said. "My mother has a scarf like that." "No, I guess hers is some kind of fur." Jackie's face changed. "What kind?" I'm not sure." "Not an endangered species, I hope?" "No, not that. I'm sure not. That." Jackie stared at him for a moment longer. The child who had been watching strolled towards them. Harry saw Gernshaw look at the boy with relief. About 11 years old, he wore a perfectly tailored suit and Italian shoes. Manny shifted to put himself between the boy and Gernshaw. "Jackie, darling, it's so good to see you." The boy brushed by Gernshaw on the other side. He never looked up, and his voice stayed boyish and low, almost a whisper. "Crack." "Step on one and you break your mother's back," Gernshaw said brightly. He smiled at Harry, a special conspiratorial smile to suggest that children, at least, didn't change in 50 years. The boy's head jerked up to look at Gernshaw. "You talking about my mama?" Jackie groaned. "No," she said to the kid. "He doesn't mean anything. Beat it." "I don't forget," the boy said. He backed away slowly. Gernshaw said, frowning, "I'm sorry. I'm not sure exactly what all that was, but I'm sorry." "Are you for real?" Jackie said. "What the frickin' hell was all that? Don't you realize this park is the only place Manny and my grandfather can get some fresh air?" "I didn't. That punk runner meant it when he said he won't forget." "I don't like your tone," Gershon said, "or your language." "My language." The corners of Jackie's mouth tightened. Manny looked at Harry and put his hands over his face. The boy, 20 feet away, suddenly let out a noise like a strangled animal, so piercing, all four of them spun around. Two burly teenagers were running towards him. The child's face crumpled. He looked suddenly much younger. He sprang away, stumbled, made the noise again, and hurled himself, all animal terror, towards the street behind the park bench. "No!" Gernshaw shouted. Harry turned towards the shout, but Gernshaw already wasn't there. Harry saw the 12-wheeler bearing down, heard Jackie scream, saw Gernschon's wiry body barrel into the boys. The truck shrieked past, its air brakes deafening. Gernschon and the boy rose in the street on the other side. Car horns blared. The boy bawled. "Let go my suit! You tore my suit!" Red light flashed and a squad car pulled up. The two burly teenagers melted away, and then the boy somehow vanished as well. "Never find him," the disgruntled cop told them over the clipboard on which he'd written nothing. Probably just as well. He went away. "Are you hurt?" Manny said. It was the first time he had spoken. His face was ashen. Harry put a hand across his shoulders. "No," Gernschon said. Gave Manny his sweet smile. "Just a little dirty." "That took guts," Jackie said. She was staring at Gernschon with a frown between her eyebrows. "Why did you do it?" "Pardon?" "Why? I mean, given what that kid is, given, all of it." She gestured toward the park, a helpless little wave of her strong young hands that tore at Harry's heart. "Why bother?" Gernschon said. "What that kid is a kid." Manny looked skeptical. Harry moved to stand in front of Manny's expression before anyone wanted to discuss it. "Listen, I got a wonderful idea. You two seem to have so much to talk about, bothering and everything. Why don't you have dinner together on me? My treat." He pulled another $20 bill from his pocket. Behind him he could feel Manny start. "Oh, I couldn't," Gernschon said at the same moment that Jackie said warningly, "Popsy." Harry put his palms on both sides of her face. "Please, do this for me, Jackie, without the question, without the female protest, just this once, for me." Jackie was silent a long moment before she grimaced, nodded, turned with half-humorous appeal to Gernschon. Gernschon cleared his throat. "Well, actually, it would probably be better if all four of us came. I'm embarrassed to say that prices are higher in this city that is, I'm not able to. If we went somewhere less expensive, the Automat maybe, I'm sure all four of us could eat together." No, Harry said. "We already ate." Manny looked at him. Jackie began, offended. "I certainly don't want... Just what do you think is going on here, buddy? This is just to please my grandfather. Are you afraid I might try to jump your bones?" Harry saw Gernschon's quick, involuntary glance at Jackie's tight jeans. He saw, too, that Gernschon fiercely regretted the glance the instant he made it. He saw that Manny saw, and that Jackie saw, and that Gernschon saw that they saw. Manny made a small noise. Jackie's face began to turn so black that Harry was astounded when Gernschon cut her off with a dignity no one had expected. "No, of course not," he said. "I would prefer all of us to have dinner together for quite another reason. My wife is very dear to me, Miss Snyder. Wouldn't do anything that might make her feel uncomfortable. That's probably irrational, but that's the way it is." Harry stood arrested, his mouth open. Manny started to shake with what Harry thought savagely had better not be laughter, and Jackie, after staring at Gernschon for a long while, broke into the most spontaneous smile Harry had seen from her in months. "Hey," she said softly, "that's nice. That's really, genuinely freaking nice." The weather turned abruptly colder. Snow threatened, but didn't fall. Each afternoon, Harry and Manny took a quick walk in the park and then went inside. In the chess club, or a coffee shop, or the bus station, or the library, where there was a table deep in the stacks on which they could eat lunch without detection. Harry brought Manny a poor boy with mayo, 63 cents, and a pair of imported wool gloves, $1 on pre-season sale. "So where are they today?" Manny asked on Saturday, removing the gloves to peek at the inside of the poor boy. He sniffed appreciatively. "Horseradish. You remembered, Harry." "The museum, I think," Harry said. "What museum?" "How should I know?" he said. "The museum today, Harry, and he's gone by 8 o'clock in the morning. No more details than that." Manny stopped chewing. "What museum opens at 8 o'clock in the morning?" Harry put down his sandwich, pastrami on rye, 39 cents. He'd lost weight the past week. "Probably," Manny said. "They just talk, like young people do. Just talk." Harry eyed him balefully. "You mean like you and Lee did when you were young and left completely alone?" "You better talk to him soon, Harry." "No, to her." He seemed to reconsider Jackie. "No, to him." "Talk isn't going to do it," Harry said. He looked pale and determined. "Gernschon has to be sent back." "Be sent?" "He's married, Manny." I wanted to help Jackie so her life can hold some sweetness, not be all struggle. What kind of sweetness is she going to find if she falls in love with a married man? You know how that goes. Jackie, Harry groaned. How had all this happened? He intended only the best for Jackie. Why didn't that count more? He has to go back, Manny. How? Manny said. You can't hit him again, Harry. You were just lucky last time that you didn't hurt him. You don't want that on your conscience. You think him your my closet, Manny. If you'd only come see. For $1 you could get. Then he could just come back anytime he wants. So how? A sudden noise startled them both. Someone was coming through the stacks. Librarians, Manny hissed. Both of them frantically swept the sandwiches, beer, 15 cents, and strudel into shopping bags. Manny, panicking, threw in the wool gloves. Harry swept the table free of crumbs. When the intruder rounded the nearest bookshelf, Harry was bent over making paper flowers and Manny over porcelain of the young Qing dynasty. It was Robert Gernshon. The young man dropped into a chair. His face was ashen. In one hand he clutched a sheaf of paper, and the handwriting on the last one trailing off into shaky squiggles. After a moment of silence, Manny said, So, where are you coming from, Robert? Where's Jackie? Harry demanded. Jackie? Gershon said. His voice was thick. Harry realized with a sudden shock that he had been crying. I haven't seen her for a few days. A few days? Harry said. No, I've been... Manny sat up straighter. He looked intently at Gernshon over porcelain of the young Qing dynasty and then put the book down. He moved into the chair next to Gernshon and gently took the papers from his hand. Gernshon leaned over the table and buried his head in his arms. I'm so awfully sorry. I'm being such a baby. His shoulders trembled. Manny separated the papers and spread them out on the library table. Among the hand-copied notes were 2 slim books, one bound between black covers and the other a pamphlet. A memoir of Auschwitz, Countdown to Hiroshima. For a long moment nobody spoke, and Harry said, to no one in particular, I thought he was going to science museums. Manny laid his arm almost casually across Gernshon's shoulders. So, now you know not to be at either place. Most people should have only known. More people should have not only known. Harry didn't recognize the expression on his friend's face, nor the voice with which Manny said to Harry, You're right. He has to go back. But Jackie can't do without this sweetness, Manny said. So what's so terrible in her life anyway that she needs so much help? Is she dying? Is she poor? Is she ugly? Is anyone knocking on her door in the middle of the night? Let Jackie find her own sweetness. She'll survive. Harry made a helpless gesture. Manny's stubborn face, carved wood under the harsh fluorescent light, did not change. Even him, Manny, the things he knows now. You should have thought of that earlier. Gernshon looked up. Don't. I'm sorry. It's just coming across it. I never thought human beings. No, Manny said, but they can. You've been here every day at the library, reading it all? Yes, that and museums. I saw you 2 coming in earlier. I've been reading. I wanted to know. So now you know, Manny said in that same surprisingly casual, tough voice. You'll survive too. Harry said, Does Jackie know what's going on? Why you've been doing all this learning? No. And you? What will you do with what you know now? Harry held his breath. What if Gernshon just refused to go back? Gernshon said, At first, I wanted to not return. At all. How can I watch it? World War II, and the camps. I have relatives in Poland. And then later the bomb, and Korea, and the gulags, and Vietnam, and Cambodia, and the terrorists, and AIDS. Didn't miss anything, Harry muttered. And not be able to do anything. Not be able to even hope, knowing that everything to come is already set into history. How could I watch all that without any hope that it isn't really as bad as it seems to be at the moment? It all depends on what you look at, Manny said. Gernshon didn't seem to hear him. But neither can I stay. There's Susan. We're hoping for a baby. I need to think. No, you don't, Harry said. You need to go back. This is all my mistake. I'm sorry. You need to go back, Gernshon. Lebanon, Gernshon said. DDT. The Cultural Revolution. Nicaragua. Deforestation. Iran. Penicillin, Manny said suddenly. His beard quivered. Civil rights. Mahatma Gandhi. Polio vaccines. Washing machines. Harry stared at him, shocked. Could Manny once have worked in a hand laundry? Or, Manny said, Hitler, Auschwitz, Hoovervilles, the Dust Bowl. What you look at, Robert. I don't know, Gernstein said. I need to think. There's so much. And there's that girl. Harry stiffened. Jackie? No. Someone she and I met a few days ago at a coffee shop. She just walked in. I couldn't believe it. I looked at her, just went into shock. Maybe she did too, for all I know. The girl looked exactly like me. And she felt like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. She felt like me. I said hello, but I didn't tell her my name. I didn't dare. His voice fell into a whisper. I think she's my granddaughter. Oh boy, Manny said. Gernstein stood. He made a move to gather up his papers and booklets, stopped, left them there. Harry stood too, so abruptly that Gernstein shot him a sudden hard look across the library table. Gonna hit me again, Harry? Gonna kill me? Us, Manny said. Us, Robert? His tone was gentle. In a way you already have. I'm not who I was, certainly. Manny shrugged. So be somebody better. Damn it, I don't think you understand. I don't think you do, Reuven Boychik. This is the way it is. That's all. Whatever you had back there, you have still. Tell me, in all that reading, did you find anything about yourself, anything personal? Are you in the history books, in the library papers? The Office of Public Documents takes 2 weeks to do a search for birth and death certificates, Gernstein said. So you lost nothing, because you really know nothing, Manny said. Only history. History is cheap. Everybody gets some. You can have all the history you want. It's what you make of it that counts, that costs. Gernstein didn't nod agreement. He looked a long time at Manny, and something moved behind the unhappy hazel eyes, something that made Harry finally let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Suddenly it seemed that Gernstein was the one that was old. And he was. With the 52 years he'd gained since last week, he was older than Harry had been in the 1937 of Captains Courageous, and wide-brimmed fedoras and clean city parks. That was the good time, the one that Gernstein was going back to, the one Harry himself would choose if it weren't for Jackie and Manny. Still, he couldn't watch as Gernstein walked out of the book stacks, parting the musty air as heavily as if it were water. Gernstein paused. Over his shoulder he said, I'll go back. Tonight, I will. After he had left, Harry said, This is my fault. Yes, Manny agreed. Will you come to my room when he goes to help? Yes, Harry. Somehow that only made it worse. Gernstein agreed to a blindfold. Harry led him through the closet, the warehouse, the street. Neither of them seemed very good at this. They shambled into each other, hesitated, tripped over nothing. In the warehouse, Gernstein nearly walked into a pile of lumber, and in the sharp jerk Harry gave Gernstein's arm to deflect him, something twisted and gave way in Harry's back. He waited, bent over, behind a corner of a building, while Gernstein removed his blindfold, blinked in the morning light, and walked slowly away. Despite his back, Harry found that he couldn't return right away. Why not? He just couldn't. He waited until Gernstein had a large head start and then hobbled towards the park. A carousel turned, playing bright organ music. September 24. 2 children he had never noticed before stood just beyond the carousel, watching it with hungry, hopeless eyes. Flowers grew in immaculate flower beds. A black man walked by, his eyes fixed on the sidewalk, his head bent. 2 small girls jumped rope, were watched by a smiling woman in a blue and white uniform. On the sidewalk, just beyond the carousel, someone had chalked a swastika. The black man shuffled over it. Lincoln Zephyr V12 drove by, $1,090. There's no way it would fit through a closet. When Harry returned, Manny was curled up on the white chenille bedspread that Harry had bought for $3.28, fast asleep. What did I accomplish, Manny? What? Harry said. The day had dawned glorious and warm, unexpected Indian summer. Trees in the park showed bare branches against a bright blue sky. Manny wore an old red sweater, Harry a flannel work shirt. Harry shifted gingerly, grimacing on his bench. Sunday strollers dropped ice cream wrappers, cigarettes, newspapers, Diet Pepsi cans, used tissues, popcorn. Pigeons quarreled and children shrieked. Jackie's going to be just as hard as ever, and why not? Harry continued. She finally meets a nice fellow. He never calls her again. Me, I leave a young man miserable on a sidewalk. Before I leave him, I ruin his life. While I leave him, I ruin my back. After I leave him, I sit here guilty. There's no answer, Manny. Manny didn't answer. He squinted down the curving path. I don't know, Manny. I just don't know. Manny said suddenly, Here comes Jackie. Harry looked up. He squinted, blinked, tried to jump up. His back made sharp protest. He stayed where he was, and his eyes grew wide. Popsy, Jackie cried. I've been looking for you. She looked radiant. All the lines were gone from around her eyes, all the sharpness from her face. Her very collarbones, Harry thought dazedly, looked softer. Happiness haloed her like light. She held the hand of a slim, red-haired woman with strong features and direct hazel eyes. This is Anne, Jackie said. I've been looking for you, Popsy, because I need to tell you something. She slid onto the bench next to Harry, on the other side from Manny, and put one arm around Harry's shoulders. The other hand kept a close grip on Anne, who smiled encouragement. Manny stared at Anne as if a ghost. You see, Popsy, for a while now I've been struggling with something really important. I know I've been snappy and difficult, but it hasn't been. Everybody needs somebody to love. You've often told me that. I know how happy you and Grammy were all these years. I thought there would never be anything like that for me. And certain people were making everything all so hard. But now there's Anne. I wanted you to know that. Jackie's arm tightened. Her eyes pleaded. Anne watched Harry closely. He felt as if he were drowning. I know this must come as a shock to you, Jackie went on. I also know you've always wanted me to be happy. So I hope you'll come to love her the way I do. Harry stared at the red-haired woman. He knew what was being asked of him, but he didn't believe in it. It wasn't real. In the same way weather going on in other countries wasn't really real. Hurricanes, drought, sunshine. When what you were looking at was a cold drizzle. I think that of all the people I've ever known, Anne is the most together, the most compassionate, and the most moral. Ah, Harry said. Popsy. Jackie was looking right at him. The longer he was silent, the more her smile faded. It occurred to him that the smile had showed her teeth. They were very white, very even, also very sharp. Aye. Hello, Anne. Hello, Anne said. See, I told you he'd be great, Jackie said to Anne. She let go of Harry and jumped up from the bench, all energy and lightness. You're wonderful, Popsy. You too, Manny. Oh, Anne, this is Popsy's best friend, Manny Feldman. Manny, Anne Davies. Happy to meet you, Anne said. She had a low, rough voice and a sweet smile. Harry felt hurricanes, drought, sunshine. Jackie said, I know this is probably a little unexpected. Unexpected? Well, Harry said and could say no more. It's just that it was time for me to come out of the closet. Harry made a small noise. Manny managed to say, So, you live here, Anne? Oh, yes, all my life. My family, too, since forever. Has Jackie met any of them yet? Not yet, Jackie said. Might be a little tricky in the case of her parents. She smiled at Anne. We'll manage. I wish, Anne said, that you could have met my grandfather. He would have been just as great as your Popsy here. He always was. Was, Harry said faintly. He died a year ago. He was just a wonderful man, compassionate and intelligent. What did he do? He taught history at the university. He was also active in lots of organizations, Amnesty International, ACLU, things like that. During World War II, he worked for the Jewish Rescue Leagues, getting people out of Germany. Manny nodded. Harry watched Jackie's teeth. We'd like you both to come to dinner soon, Anne said. She smiled. I'm a good cook. Manny's eyes gleamed. Jackie said, I know this must be hard for you. But Harry now said that she didn't really mean it. She didn't think it was hard. For her, it was so real that it was natural weather. Unexpected, maybe, but not strange, not out of place, not out of time. In front of the bench, sunlight striped the pavement like bars. Suddenly Jackie said, "Oh, Popsy, did I tell you that it was your friend Robert who introduced us? Did I tell you that already?" "Yes, sweetheart," Harry said. "You did. He's kind of a nerd, but actually all right." After Jackie and Anne left, the two old men sat silently a long time. Finally, Manny said, "You want to get a snack, Harry?" "She's happy, Manny." "Yes. You want to get a snack, Harry?" She didn't even recognize him. "No. You want to get a snack?" "Here, have this. I got it for you this morning." Harry held out an orange, a deep-colored navel with flawless, rind, seedless, huge, guaranteed juicy, nurtured for flavor. Perfect. "Enjoy," Harry said. "Cost me 92 cents.